ancient animals versus otherworldly creatures. Or better yet, dinosaurs versus monsters. This is part 3 of Dinosaurs in the Backrooms, and I hope you all enjoy. Hello everybody, this is Unroarable, or Unroarable2468, and before I continue, I would just like to say thank you so much for letting us reach 10 subscribers. It means so much to me, and in celebration of that, after October and I do all my scary videos for the season, I'm hoping to do a very big video for you all that celebrates 10 subscribers, but no spoilers. The only thing I will tell you is that it'll most likely be pretty long. So do remember to like and subscribe and to comment, as any comments will be put into consideration for a future video. For example, if you commented T-Rex versus Gigantosaurus, I would most likely make the video. It'd be down the line, but it would definitely come eventually. And remember to share. Sharing is very important and it helps out the channel. So if you do and or have, thank you so much. And yeah, aside from that, I guess on with the video. So how will I be doing this? Well, I do have a bracket system set up, but really quickly let me tell you the rules. Every time a dinosaur goes up against a creature or a monster from the backrooms, I'll give him a score from 0 to 10. 0 means they would die against him, or any of the creatures, or whatever creature they fight, and 10 means they would win every time. And if they do get 0 and they ended up dying against that creature, that doesn't mean they would actually die. All it means is that they would die in that scenario and we move on. So they don't actually die, but they would have if they'd gotten into that fight. And in case you're confused, which I don't blame you, you can watch part 1 and part 2 of Dinosaurs in the Backrooms. It'll most likely help you understand what's going on here. So let's start off with what dinosaurs and a bit of facts about the dinosaurs that will be going into the backrooms. Just to let you know, just like part 1 and 2, there will only be 4. But they're all amazing and definitely deserve to be here, as much as any of the others did in part 1 and 2. So let's start off with Majungasaurus ceratissimus. The name, Majungasaurus ceratissimus, means Majungian lizard most notched. The Majungian part stands for the place it was found in Madagascar, and most notch refers to all the notches in its teeth, as its teeth was highly serrated and had notch-like patterns in the teeth. It also had a relatively small horn near the top of its head, placed in the middle of its skull, which allowed it to be the top predator of Madagascar at the time. It had an unclear length of 7 to 8 meters plus, or 23 to 26 feet plus. It would have had a max height of 2.5 meters, or 8 feet, and had a max weight of 1,200 kilograms, which is 1.18 tons. And when I say tons, I mean imperial tons, not the US tons. Sorry for any of you watching from the US. Spicomelis afer. Its name, Spicomelis afer, means collar of spikes of Africa. The collar of spikes referring to the fact that he has a collar of spikes around his neck, and of Africa is pretty obvious, it's from Africa. And these spikes allowed it to be the hedgehog of its time. The Spicomelis had a max length of 4 meters, or 13 feet, and had a max height of 1 meter, or 3 feet, and weighed of a max estimate of 2,000 kg, or around 1.9 tons. Next up, we have Dakotaraptor stainii, with its name, Dakota stainii, meaning thief Dakota, or plunger of Dakota, with Stain being the surname of the person who discovered the Dakotaraptor, that being Walter W. Stain, and is one of the most annoying dinosaurs ever discovered, as we don't know if it was a true dinosaur or different pieces from different dinosaurs put into one skeleton to create the Dakotaraptor. But no matter what the case, we'll be using it in today's video before it gets reclassified as 3 separate species of raptor. The Dakotaraptor had a max length of 5.5 meters, or 18 feet, and had a max height of 2 meters, or 6.5 feet, and weighed approximately, at max estimates, 350 kg, or 0.34 tons. And lastly but not least, we have Cryolophosaurus ellioti. Cryolophosaurus means cold-crest lizard, while ellioti stands for the discoverer of Cryolophosaurus ellioti, being David Elliott, with its name, Cold-Crested Lizard, referring to the fact that it had a big crest and was one of the best preserved dinosaurs from Antarctica, being the only crested dinosaur from Antarctica. And really quickly, I must add that no, the picture you see on screen is my meme, and I won't be using it to represent Cryolophosaurus in this video. It is too legendary for that. And Cryolophosaurus has a max length of 7.7 meters or 25.3 feet, and has a max height of 2 meters or 7 feet, and had a max weight of 907 kg or 0.89 tons. But what about the monsters? Well, before we get into that, let me really quickly say that none of the dinosaurs or the monsters can work together, and there can't be multiple of the same species. So if the Cryolophosaurus went up against one of the monsters, for example, the Cain's Pixel monster, which will be the first monster they go up against, it would be by itself, and so would the Cain's Pixel monster, being a fair 1v1, as it wouldn't be fair if it was 3 Cain Pixel monsters and only 1 Cryolophosaurus. But I do make videos similar to that, like how King Kong travelled to St. Hubert, or how the D-Rex entered Skull Island, which you could both go check out, by the way. But what about the monsters? Well, in order of which ones will be fighting the dinosaurs first to last, we have the Cain's Pixel monster, the Duller, the Hound, Skin Stealer, Scratcher, Wretch, Window Monster, Death Moth, and the Growler. Just before we hop right into it, let me just really quickly say they'll be in level 0, with the only monster residing in level 0 being the Cain's Pixel monster. So let's get started with Majungasaurus ceratissimus. So how well does the Majungasaurus fare up against the Cain's Pixel monster? Well, you'd be surprised to hear that he most likely will fare pretty well, as his jaws were pretty powerful and he was a pretty robust animal compared to the Cain's Pixel monster, which was just made of wires and, well, metal, with possible oil and other substances like that, but that isn't really going to deter the Majungasaurus from defending itself. And with the fact that the Majungasaurus most likely was able to ram due to the horn on top of its head, I give the Majungasaurus a pretty high chance of winning this most of the time. Now, if he didn't have the chunky build or the horn, I'd have most likely given him the 6 out of 10, but due to the fact that he's a pretty chunky and hefty abelisaurid for his size, he will be getting a 7 out of 10. Next up is the Spicomelis, and you shouldn't be surprised when I say that it passes through with ease. It is covered in spikes, armour, and it isn't going to sit there and let itself be hit. Meanwhile, the Cain's Pixel monster is going to have enough of a hard time trying to figure out how to get around the armour, and let alone dealing with it, which is why I'm giving the Spicomelis a 9 out of 10. Next up, we have Dakota Raptor, and this was extremely hard to decide, as whilst yes, Dakota Raptor was a very large raptor, the Cain's Pixel monster is made of metal and wires, and when you're big or as big as the Majungasaurus or Spicomelis, it doesn't really matter. But when you're more, well, raptor or human-sized, it does actually get quite worrisome, as this thing is designed to shred things at that size, as, well, the backrooms is made specifically to horrify or make horror of people, not dinosaurs. So how would the Dakota Raptor fare? Well, most of the times I see it dying, as the Cain's Pixel monster is way too strong or out of its league for the Dakota Raptor to usually have a chance. But if the Dakota Raptor is spooked and is able to run away and has a clear shot, I can see it winning, not relatively easy, but easy enough that he takes the win. But this is going to be an extreme scenario and it's rarely going to happen, which is why I am personally giving the Dakota Raptor a 1 out of 10. But I expect better from the Dakota Raptor in the future. Next up is the Cryolophosaurus, and I don't think the Cryolophosaurus is going to do that well. Now, don't get me wrong, it is quite heavy, but it is quite a lot smaller than the Cain's Pixel monster, and why this matters is because the Cain's Pixel monster can easily overpower something so much smaller. Even with that much weight, arms, bite force, and even a crest to its name, it still isn't going to have the easiest time up against the Cain's Pixel monster, and the harsh truth or reality of it is it will most likely be clawed or thrashed to death in most battle situations, as it will be pinned down and ripped open, and slowly at that, which would be very painful. But I do see him sneaking out a win every once in a while, which is why I am giving the Cryolophosaurus a 3 out of 10. Next up, we are moving on to the next level, being level 1, which contains 3 of the next monsters, that being the Duller, the Hound, and the Skin Stealer. And we'll be starting off with the Duller, which, just to let you know in case you're confused, likes to hide in water and pounces on victims who go for a drink. But apart from that, it's actually pretty long and lanky and is quite reasonably weaker than the Kane's Pixel monster. So I guess we're going to find out how well these dinosaurs do against the Duller. Oh, and one last thing about the Duller. No matter what happens, even if it's at the brink of death, it will not let go. So first up is the Majungasaurus. How well does the Majungasaurus fare up against the Duller? Yeah, the Majungasaurus isn't having a problem with the Duller. Once the Duller won't let go, that's the problem. It will not let go. The Majungasaurus will just thrash around to the point that it kills the Duller, and it would only take one hit from any part of the Majungasaurus, will most likely shatter all the bones in the Duller, or possibly even kill it. And whilst initially the Majungasaurus will most likely be shocked from the Duller's, bursting out the water he was trying to drink from, and might experience a bit of pain depending on how hard the Duller grips, it most likely isn't going to experience much to any problems, which is why I'm giving the Majungasaurus a 9 out of 10. Next up, we have the one and only Spicomelis Afer. Yeah, it's not going to have that much trouble. Whilst it doesn't have spikes all over its face, so it is going to get grabbed and equally as hurt as the Majungasaurus, that's about it. So it's basically the same case that goes for the Majungasaurus, except it's going to hurt the Duller in different ways. Therefore, it gets the same score as the Majungasaurus, that being a 9 out of 10. But if the Spicomelis was any heavier, it would have most likely had a 10 out of 10. The Dakotaraptor. To be completely honest, I do think the Dakotaraptor also passes through with ease. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more difficult as he weighs a significant amount less and is a lot smaller, but he is probably going to do as well as a lot of these other dinosaurs, or at least not horribly bad and not too far behind, which is why I'm giving him a total score of 7 out of 10. 6, 7. But what about Cryolophosaurus? Well, to be completely honest, it won't be too bad for him as well, but his crest isn't going to help, actually acting as more of a handle in this one in specific. And just like the rest, Hume would most likely be spooked at first when it comes jumping out the water towards him, but overall it's not going to be too hard of an experience, so the Duller wasn't too much of a challenge for any of them. But overall, I'd give the Cryolophosaurus an 8 out of 10. But do remember that like and subscribing does help out the channel, as well as sharing and commenting as well, as any comments will be put into consideration for a future video. But also, if you want a shout out on my channel, please just ask. I'm happy to help, or just happy to shout you out. And it doesn't matter to me personally whether or not you just want to shout out because you're a big YouTuber and thought it'd be cool, or a smaller YouTuber who just genuinely wants a shout out. I do not mind. But beneath this video, there will be a link sending you to a poll that's asking what video you'd like to see next after my next video, as I finally have you guys to decide what videos come next. I still come up with the ideas for them, but it's still fun that you guys get to choose which ones go first, as I will most likely eventually use them all, but the ones that you guys pick last will obviously become videos last. But other than that, I suppose let's get back to the video, shall we? Next up, after the Duller, in level 1, we have the Hound. The Hound is basically a human-like dog, and that's all to it. It probably has a pretty strong bite force and an overgrown head for its smaller body, but other than that, it has nothing else. So let's get right into it, shall we? Majungasaurus. Yeah, I don't think Majungasaurus is having much of a problem at all. Don't get me wrong, the Hound is going to pose a bit of a challenge, but not that much of a challenge, since Majungasaurus did probably deal with the predators a lot more capable at home. Or, well, each other really, as there's evidence supporting that they're cannibalistic. but they probably also live alongside some smaller herbivores or carnivores that were as, if not more dangerous than the hound. And apart from its surprising agility, speed, and, well, possible intelligence, it isn't going to have much on the Majungasaurus. And because the Majungasaurus itself is pretty agile and fast, I'm going to give the Majungasaurus another 9 out of 10. Spicomelis. Yeah, the Spicomelis isn't even getting touched. All he needs to do is lie down and he's just there. He's just a line of spikes. Apart from impaling itself, there's not much the hound can do. So I'm giving the Spicomelis the first 10 out of 10. Dakota Raptor Staney. Honestly, I don't think the Dakota Raptor's going to have much trouble in this at all. And apart from balance, because of the hound's quadrupedal stance, the Dakota Raptor is better than the hound in every single way. That's even counting intelligence. And honestly, I don't think that the Dakota Raptor is going to have that much of a hard time shredding through the hound. And it's definitely not going to be the other way around. But overall, I do think the Dakota Raptor does pretty well. That's why I am giving it a 7 out of 10. The Cryolophosaurus. Now don't get me wrong, the Cryolophosaurus is going to have an easier time bullying the hound, but it's the fact that it's going to be bullied first. The hound is much faster and much more agile than the Cryolophosaurus. Now don't get me wrong, I do think the Cryolophosaurus is quite agile. In fact, he's so agile that I think he could be near the same agility as the hound. But the problem I've got is his build. While yes, he's got arms, he's got the Majungasaurus build. And whilst, yes, you might be wondering, yeah, it's the Majungasaurus but with a crest instead of a horn and arms, but he's a lot lighter. So if the Cryolophosaurus does get pounced on by the hound is most likely going to leave an impact. And the Cryolophosaurus might have good turning capabilities, but compared to the speed of the dog, and because it doesn't have the weight of the Majungasaurus, the Cryolophosaurus is going to be in quite a vulnerable state, and in my opinion, have a harder time than the Dakota Raptor did. Therefore, I will be giving the Cryolophosaurus a 6 out of 10. And to end this video, and the level 1 of the backrooms, we have the Skin Stealer, by far the strongest creature and or monster from the backrooms thus far. But apart from just having a natural human strength, it also has a mouth usually considered to go from the mid area of its face all the way down to its tummy. But it also has some sort of shape-shifting ability, being able to mimic some human voices and being able to turn into a human with a yellow suit. But whether this goes anything past human, or let alone just a human with the yellow suit, is unknown. So for the sake of this video, we'll pretend that it doesn't have any mimicking or shape-shifting abilities, as it's not confirmed to be for anything else other than human. And apart from having a weak defense system, that being its blubber or just fat instead of other body armor, it really is a powerhouse, and we'll see how well our dinosaurs do up against this monster. And yes, you heard me right, this is the end of this video, as in part 4 will include all the other monsters, but I'd rather have 2 separate parts that are pretty lengthy than one really long video. But yes, I will have all the other 5 monsters as mentioned earlier in the next video, and all of these other monsters that will be in the next video are the Scratcher, Ratcher, Window Monster, Death Moth, and the Growler. But let's get back to the Skin Stealer, shall we? So first up is the Majungasaurus, and the Majungasaurus is going to have a bit of a hard time, as this thing does have super strength as mentioned, and its skin is going to be the best thing about it, as it's, well, human-like skin. It's going to be very easy to tear through or to puncture. And to be completely honest, I do think the Majungasaurus isn't going to have too hard of time. Whilst yes, his super strength is going to at least bruise the Majungasaurus, it isn't doing much else than that. And I will admit that its mouth is scary cool, and the Majungasaurus might get, well, bit or once or twice by it, but I'm not expecting it to do serious damage. So Majungasaurus moves on with a 8 out of 10. The Spicomelis. The Skin Stealer might actually be the first thing to be able to hurt the Spicomelis, and whilst yes, I know it's made of human skin, and if it gets stabbed once, it's most likely game over or he's crippled for the rest of the fight. But the Skin Stealer might not only just be the first thing to be able to possibly bruise the head or the underbelly of the Spicomelis using its super strength to pick it up and put upside down, but also might just very well be tough enough or strong enough to snap a couple of the Spicomelis' spikes, which is going to hurt it a lot. And just because of the pure strength of this creature, I'm giving the Spicomelis one of its first lowish scores, that being a 5 out of 10. Mainly because of the fact that he can't do much, but he will eventually win, but it's going to cost him a bruise and a spike. The Dakota Raptor. The Dakota Raptor has all the weapons and abilities needed to take down the Skin Stealer, except for weight, and that's what's going to be the main problem. He's too light to be able to finish that Skin Stealer straight off the bat, and it's going to take a while. But it won't take too long, and overall he's going to do pretty well against the Skin Stealer. But it really does come down to who grabs who first, as if the Skin Stealer grabs the Dakota Raptor first, it is most likely going to eventually kill it. After hitting it a couple times and maybe even biting it with its grotesquely cool looking mouth, it will most likely win. But if the Dakota Raptor gets the first slash and starts tearing up the Skin Stealer will most likely die of lack of blood or organs spilling and all of that disgusting gory stuff. So, because of how equal this battle is, I'm giving the Dakota Raptor a 5 out of 10. Cryolophosaurus ellioti. I surprisingly do think that the Cryolophosaurus will do pretty well up against the Skin Stealer, mainly due to the way that we thought it may have fought. With its arms rolled out and its mouth ready to attack, its crest helping as well, it most likely shred up the Skin Stealer. Not to a degree that the Majungasaurus would, but definitely a degree surpassing that of the Dakota Raptor and Spicomelis, which is why I'm giving the Cryolophosaurus a 6 out of 10. And do remember, there will be a link underneath the video sending you to a poll on what my next video should be, or well, the video after my next video should be. And I hope you all remember to like and subscribe, and to share and to comment, as it helps out the channel, and any comments will be put into consideration for a future video. But other than that, let's look over the final scores of the dinosaurs, shall we? So far, between the 4 monsters that they fought so far out of all 9, the one with the lowest amount of points is the Dakota Raptor, with a 20, struggling a little bit with the bigger ones, but the ones with a lot more soft tissue or similar size he can deal with. With 23 points, it's the Cryolophosaurus, just doing an overall average because of his relatively alright size, just lack of, well, movability due to his sausage-like shape. And drawing for first, surprisingly, is the Spicomelis and Majungasaurus. But it does make sense, I suppose, as the Spicomelis did get a 10 at one point and a couple 9s, whilst the Majungasaurus stayed on a steady course between 7 and 9 and did not go to 5 like the Spicomelis did up against the Skin Stealer. But overall, they both got 33 points each thus far. And with that, I must say thank you so much for watching this video. It really does mean a lot to me. As the time I am ending this recording, I have had 11 subscribers, so it is really amazing to how far you guys are willing to go for this channel. And do remember to press the link under my video that will send you to a poll deciding and or voting on which video I will do next after my next video. So apart from that, you're all unroarably amazing, and until next time, goodbye.